Welcome to the Happy Mindset, the show that brings you insights, realizations, and lessons learned in order to help you to live a life you love. Today's episode is episode number 30, and today's episode title is The Mosaic. So today I'm joined by Daniel Bruce Levin. So Daniel is an author who walked away from an opportunity to run a business that was a household name in order to hitchhike around the world in search of inner peace and happiness. He studied to be a rabbi in this time, and he lived in a monastery for 10 years. The people he met along his journey remind him a lot of the characters in his latest book, The Mosaic. For most of his life, Levin felt different. He saw things that other people didn't see, and he thought in ways that other people didn't think in. This made him feel alone and isolated, and though he knew how to play the game and interact with people, he never felt the same as them. This all changed when he started to work with leaders seeking innovation. Suddenly, it was his ability to see differently that made him a sought-after commodity. Levin is a connectivity expert and business leader. He works with governmental organizations, corporations, and businesses to improve how people treat themselves and others. Sharing a message of unification, he is a popular speaker for groups whose focus is on problem solving, innovation, and conflict resolution. Offered the opportunity to combine his passion for spiritual inspiration with his business skills, Levin served a key role in Hay House, where he was the publishing firm's director of business development. In this time, Levin took the company from $3 million in annual revenue to over $100 million in annual revenue. So today we have him on the show to talk about The Mosaic, to talk about the concepts that he's bringing to the world and the life lessons that he's learned along his journey. So thanks for joining us today.
It is an absolute pleasure. I've been waiting for this moment with you. I enjoyed our previous conversation, and I look forward to what's going to unfold today.
Cool. Thanks, Daniel. We'll start with your book, The Mosaic. So I've been reading it there the past few weeks. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. Like, what inspired you to write this book, and what does it mean to you, The Mosaic?
Wow. I had started out to write a completely different book. I had started out to write what happens, a book called V2, what the second version of your life looked like, because I was getting older and I thought, I've lived a lot of different lives. What would happen to the second version? I sent it to a friend of mine who was a muse. And she said, great ideas, but this isn't at all you. I said, what are you talking about? Do you think I plagiarized it? She said, oh, no. The ideas are fresh and exciting, but you're a storyteller. Why don't you write a story? And I said, well, this is sort of my legacy. I want to leave something that will stay with people. And she said, yeah, write a fable. I fought her for about a minute and a half until I realized how brilliant that is. In the process of writing a fable, what happened for me is I connected to something that I never even knew existed. I thought I had lived a purposeful life for 60 years of my life, but it's only in the last 3 years in writing this book that I understand what my real purpose is. And that is to reach out to those people, not to everybody. Some people are very happy where they are in their disconnection. But most of us are connected in a lot of places and disconnected in some places. And our connection brings us happiness. It does for me, at least. I don't know about for you. When we're connected to something, we feel alive and energized. And when we're disconnected, we feel alone and down. And so I thought, what would happen if I could explore this whole idea of connection? It's such a big thing. And it doesn't seem like anybody's talking about it. I mean, a lot of people are talking about it, but not as the central theme. Like if I were to ask you, can you think of anything that's more vital in your life than connection? What would you say?
Yeah, when you get to the core of it, that's what you're looking for. But I think it's hidden by the so many things that we think we want that will give us a feeling.
And so give me an example, if you don't mind, and this isn't a coaching session or anything like that, but give me an example of that, because give me an example of what are the things that we think we want that hide us from having the connection we really want?
So for example, for me, I can easily lose sight of wanting to build a business that will give me a certain feeling, that will give me a certain level of success. And if I don't take the time to look at why I want that success in the first place, I'll get there and realize that I'm still missing the feeling. And then when I realized I'm missing the feeling, I guess that's where the connection is, that it was a connection I was looking for. So when I was looking for the successful business, that's built on the assumption that more people will like me and they'll want to be friends with me. But if I didn't look at what it was, which is the feeling of feeling connected to other people, then I can easily get lost in that surface level stuff and realize then that people are only liking me for the person I've built myself up to be rather than for who I am. That's kind of how I would see it.
So beautiful, because part of what I realized in my own process is life. I, like probably everybody, I don't think there's anybody listening that hasn't gone through some pain in life. And those pains, for me and for most people probably, have hurt so much that I've done what I naturally would do. I protect myself. And the way I protect myself is I build a wall around me. And what you described is so beautifully what the Mosaic has come to offer to people. Because as long as we're happy for our walls to connect one to the other, like when I'm happy to say, Dennis, I don't want to let you see who I am. I'll never say that to your face. I'm going to hide behind this wall that protects me so that you can't hurt me. And I'm going to paint that wall so beautifully that you actually like the wall that you're seeing. And you're going to want to meet that wall because it's so successful and it's so beautiful and it's so good. But behind that wall, someone who doesn't believe it. It's a phantom. It's a myth. It's an imposter. But when I have the courage to say, hey, you know what? You might hurt me, Dennis. But come in behind that wall. Let's actually have a chance to really connect. What would it look like if the real you, not the one that is surrounded by the wall, and the real me actually held each other for a couple of minutes and said, who are you? I think we would see we're a lot the same. I think we would see we all want to be heard and understood. We all want to be loved and accepted. We all want to be listened to and validated. Notice I didn't say we want to be agreed with. We just, if I know that you've listened to me and heard me, I don't need you to agree with me. I honor your ability to think what you think and feel what you feel. But when we can listen to each other, validate what each other thinks, accept what each other says, and then if we agree, great. If we disagree, great. It doesn't matter. I know who you are now. And I can help you to get what you want in the ways that I can. And that creates a new world, not a world where we live in silos where we all think the same. That world's boring. But where we live in a unification of like and unlike minds, that world's exciting. That's where innovation comes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it frees up a lot of energy, like from what I was describing there, of like when you're focused on what the surface will give you, there's a lot of energy that goes into that. And it just feels like a release when you kind of go, okay, that won't give me that feeling connection I'm looking for. So how do I create something that is more aligned with who I am? So that when people come to me, they're coming to me because they like who I am rather than the representation I've been trying to build to make them come.
And if I can even reframe that a little more, and
okay.
Pardon me for overstepping my boundaries if I am.
Not far away.
It doesn't matter if people come to you or not. What matters is for me at least, when I take off that burden of carrying that wall and walking around with all this armor on me, and I just say, screw it, I'm going to throw off that armor. And I'm just going to be myself. It's so freeing. And if you like me, great. If you don't like me, stand in line. There are a lot of other people that don't like me. That's okay. Right? You're not the first one. You won't be the last one. Take a number, stand in line, and we'll get to it when we get to it. Right? But when I no longer care about what you think of me, I can start to be kind to myself. And that's the first practice in the 4 practices of connection. When I think about life, really, what I see around me is a lot of people that are really hard on themselves. They're beautiful, beautiful people. But they're so hard on themselves. It's like they're doing this all day long. They're hitting themselves and they're protecting themselves. So that wall we were talking about right now is about 3 inches from my face. And I have to build it all the way down because I don't know where I'm going to hit myself next. And I'm not worried about you hitting me. I hit myself far more than you'll ever get a chance to hit me. So as soon as I can start to be kind to myself, this wall can vanish. Now suddenly a world is open to me. Now I might see you and say, "Oh God, you're a scary mofo. I got to stay away from you," right?
Yeah.
I got to build up a wall, but that wall's out here. Okay, I have so much more space that I can operate in. And if and when we decide that it's time for us to take down that wall, that I invite you in to see me, and you invite me in to see you, we know what does that. Kindness. When I say to you, Dennis, if I hurt you, you have to know I never intended to hurt you. And I will do my best to just support you and love you. Let me know who you are. And let's be real with each other and lift each other up. Each time we fall, just let's bring each other up. Because that's what we do for each other. How about if we start doing that for ourselves? Each time I fall, I say, "You stupid idiot. You fell again, you stupid, clumsy son of a gun. Can't you even walk without falling down?" But when you fall, I say, "Hey, Dennis, let me help you up." Why would I treat you with such love and respect and myself with such scorn and hatred? So the first step is learning to be kind to ourselves. Sorry, go ahead.
Or when did you start learning that for yourself? That you started seeing yourself treating others not the same way you were treating yourself?
I think I've sort of had an inkling of it for a while, but it was only in writing The Mosaic 3 years ago.
Okay.
That I realized I've heard love yourself. It's such who hasn't heard that, right? Yep. But I think life is like a spiral. We pass the same point over and over again, but each time we pass it, we go a little deeper into it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you think people break through? Because I hear the same stuff over and over. I've seen in my own journey that I understand it at deeper levels gradually, but there's no real kind of where I can go, okay, I'm going to be completely vulnerable now. There's a decision where I can be honest about something with myself and then with other people. But as far as the feeling of me being open, I don't seem to have a full control on that. There's a decision I can make, but it's as I go further, I start realizing more and more how it's me against me, just at different levels, a feeling level, kind of. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Or
100%. And one of the things that I talk about in the programs that I do with people, if that's okay, is this whole idea of the change blueprint.
What is that? What's that change blueprint?
It's such a simple, beautiful gift that I've been given, and it's not just something that's come to me. It's out there, but somehow when it came to me in this formula, it made such complete sense. Our thoughts become our words. Our words tell our stories, and our stories become our life. So if you were to listen back to what you just said to me, you have a thought that says, "I don't know that I could ever really do this all at one time. I can do it a little bit of time." Those become your words. Those create strong stories, and those stories guide your life. Here's one thing I've started to realize. We can't do anything alone. We were never intended to do anything alone. All these people that talk about superpowers and being, putting on their hero costume and going out with their big gift, I say go for it, but that's not my way. The way that I've been shown, and let's try something. If I were to tell you on a scale of 1 to 10 that 1 is something you don't want at all and 10 is something you absolutely love, and I were to give you the word ordinary, where would you put yourself on that? Where would you put the word ordinary on that scale? Is that something you long to have or something you would never want to have? A 1 is never. A 10 is that's what I live for.
I guess it depends on the ordinary, but I'd say 1.
Okay.
What's the point in life otherwise?
Good. And I want you to know you're like 97% of the people that I talk to. That's what they say. Let me ask you this now. If I were to change that word from ordinary to extraordinary, and 1 was something you don't want, and 10 was what you absolutely love, how would you rate the word extraordinary?
Yeah, you go 10. 10, I think.
10. Again, you are right in, that's where the majority of the world is. The Mosaic, in its process of just connecting me to something bigger that I couldn't see before, asked me this simple question, because that's how I was also. It asked me, why do you want to be extra of something you don't want to be? Extraordinary is, I want to be extraordinary. Extraordinary. Why would I want that? Why would I want to have more of something I don't want? And so what it came to, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
And maybe it's just the fupa of the English language. Maybe in another language it wouldn't be that way, but that's my language. And so it uses my language to help me understand. When we make extraordinary things by having extraordinaries come together. How beautiful is a sunset? How ordinary is it? It happens every single day. How beautiful is it that spring follows winter? How ordinary is it? It happens every season. It happens every year. How beautiful is it that day is followed by night and night is followed by day? It happens every single day. It's ordinary. And yet the people that think they're extraordinary are people that think, well, I don't have to go by the rules of nature. I don't have to go by those laws. I can change them. And I say to you, okay, great. Mr. Extraordinary, Mrs. Extraordinary, turn day into night. Make the sun rise instead of set at this time. Change spring into fall. You can't do it. Extraordinary people think they deserve to be in front of the line and everybody else should be in back. So they race to the front. And they say, screw the rest of the people. I'm extraordinary. Don't you know that? But the ordinary people. The Mosaic's a book written about ordinary people. It's a celebration to rediscover how absolutely glorious the ordinary is. Because when we take time to listen to anybody, to just sit and hear their story, what we'll realize is what we see initially is not at all who we see after we've listened to them.
So of course, to me what confuses me there is, like, I guess the way I look at things is that somebody who's free in being themselves and not giving into, like, always giving into how things should be, that for me is extraordinary, but it's in you embracing yourself as in your true self. That for me is extraordinary. So I can see how somebody would get a misunderstanding of extraordinary and think you're some sort of super god or super being. But for me, it's actually embracing your ordinariness, but being yourself, not giving into dogma, not giving into the way you should behave or should do this, like being able to differentiate how to navigate society, but not losing your true self in the process. That for me it's quite ordinary, but it's extraordinary that you can do that.
So let's explore that. Let's decompose that a little bit, okay? What could be more ordinary than being ourselves? And while you're thinking, let me twist it a little more for you.
Yeah.
I, like you, believe it's extraordinary to find people that are themselves, but that's because there's so few of us that are actually ourselves.
Yeah.
Going back to our example of that wall and being kind of ourselves and how much we hit ourselves, most of us show up as what we want the world, as what we think the world wants us to be. I want you to like me, so I'll do this. I want you to think I have money, so I'll say I do this. I want you to be like this. But here's the beautiful thing. My resume doesn't mean anything. The only thing that means something, Dennis, is if you and I in this moment touch each other and have some impact on the people that are listening. If we do that, I could be sleeping under a bridge and it wouldn't matter. Or I could be working with government organizations or corporations or small businesses. None of it matters. The only thing that matters is in this moment, what impact do we have? And when we stop thinking about, will you like me? Will you not like me? How do I look? Do I look good enough? Am I thin enough? Am I fat enough? Do I speak well enough? Do I do all this? And we just say, I'm going to be this piece. The beauty of a mosaic is each piece, broken or whole, shiny or dull, shows up exactly as it is. And it's in putting all those pieces together that we create this artistry that's magnificent. That's the world model now. That's the world that I want to try and influence, where those people who are ready to give up the wall that surrounds them, the disconnect, that are ready to reconnect again to the world, that are ready to be vulnerable. Because when I stop hitting myself, the second step, the second practice is that I become vulnerable. Suddenly, this wall's not around me. And so all this stuff now can come into me, and I can give out to the world more, and I can give and receive. And most of us either give or receive. There are a lot of people who take and take and take, and there are a lot of people who give and give and give. There are very few.
That is interesting. Yeah, that's been my experience. It's been, you can either go too much on the giving or too much on the taking. But it's quite rare to meet people who are great at the balance of giving and receiving. That dance.
Yeah. And balance doesn't have to be like this. Sometimes balance is like this. Sometimes your nature is you want to give more, but you have to be able to receive too, because if we don't give, there's a flow to what we're doing. And when I give to you and I receive from you, it just continues that flow of energy. When I give to you and I don't receive from you, it's like I say, stop right here. So there is no flow of energy. There's flow of ego. Because all I'm doing is saying, I want to give you, I want to give you, I want to give you, I want to give you. But I'm not vulnerable enough to allow you to give to me. And it's time for the givers to learn to receive and the receivers to learn to give. It's time for us to connect. Right? That's the whole beauty of this mosaic paradigm, of just the process of reconnecting to ourselves, to our source, to our purpose, and then to each other.
Actually, in the book, The Beast was something that stood out for me. And it stood out for me because I felt in my own life that I have locked that up. Like, there's been certain stages in my own life where things have happened and I felt resentment and I felt anger. But at the time, I didn't know how to deal with it because I wanted to move forward in my life in a constructive way. And I didn't want to go down a path of blaming and just that route of victimization. So at the time, I didn't know what to do with it. And so I kind of locked it up. So I related to the beast being locked up in the book. I'm just wondering, how do you see it? Like, where did that come from? Where did that representation come from your own life? And how did you manage to unlock the beast in a constructive way that serves yourself and other people in the process?
So if I can, let me set a little bit of context, okay?
Yeah.
The book is about a boy who loses his parents. It's a fable. It's a story about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day. And when he asks the adults where his parents are, they tell him they're in a place called heaven. So he sets out immediately as a young boy to find this place called heaven. And the people that he meets along the way are just ordinary people. But when he sits and listens to their story, like we've been talking about, he starts to realize there's something in them that he never saw before, and that their story is actually an extraordinary story. that there's nothing ordinary about them. Everyone's extraordinary. And so one of the characters that he meets along the way is this beast. The beast is that passion, is that unrestricted, raw power that every single one of us has. For me, I've locked that passion up so tight. I've been so scared of it because I made some mistakes. Early on in my life, I had an affair where that passion just took over me, where I met a woman who didn't walk past me, she walked through me. And I felt like her DNA was still inside of me, and my DNA went to her. So we actually mixed DNA, and she stopped and looked at me. It was somebody I didn't even know. She stopped and looked at me, and I was married, and I said, just keep walking. I don't know what happened, just keep walking. But as life would have it, we started to find ourselves in the same places. In fact, she ended up working in the place in the publishing company that I was vice president of. And I thought, oh my God, what are you doing here? Like, I have no chance. I love my wife. I had a developmentally delayed daughter with my wife. It caused us a lot of problems, but I loved her. I love her. But this feeling that I have with this woman is so, it just overwhelmed me. I had no chance. I would try and bring down a sheet of ice, and she would melt it. She would try and bring down a sheet of ice, and I would melt it, because there was nothing we could do. We could think that we didn't want to do it. We knew that what we were doing wasn't right, but the connection was so strong we couldn't do it. So you talk about me locking away a beast. I locked that mofo in a closet with there were 35 locks on that door. I didn't want to ever see him again. But what I noticed along with that is I lost my spark. I lost my life force. I lost my ability to really disrupt. And one day I just said, and it ended bad. I mean, I was part of a community. She sued me. She sued the community I was in, and she won against the community, not of me, very small, but she sued me for sexual harassment. And in these moments of Me Too in America, gosh, I'm sympathetic to every side, because sometimes we just fall in love. Maybe she fell in love with the power of me being vice president, but maybe she fell in love with me just like I fell in love with her. And the flower girl in my story is that seductress, where you're just walking along and someone just says, here's a flower. And somehow in that moment, that flower initiates something you have no idea about. The beast is that part of us that if we can learn how to ride it, it's like that wild stallion. And that wild stallion does not want to be broken. It just wants to run. But when you learn how to ride, when you learn how to connect with the wild stallion, and you ride that guy, you're invincible. Most of us lock the invincibility of ourselves behind doors because we're scared of what the destruction it could cause, because we're disconnected from it. The beast wants connection too. And the more we lock him in the door, the more he's, let me out of here, right?
Yeah. So how do we let him out?
So it's so interesting how the pieces of my mosaic fit together. And it's only even in this conversation right now that I'm seeing something new. I have the gift of having a 29-year-old developmentally delayed daughter. I didn't always think it was a gift, because she can't communicate like you and I can. And so over time, she showed me the 4 stages of conflict and the 4 stages of conflict resolution. She would try and communicate with me when she wasn't heard. she would yell. When she yelled and I couldn't understand her, she would throw a tantrum. And when she tantrumed and I didn't understand her, she tried to attack and destroy. She would come running at me and try and bite me or rip something. I realized that she does what all of us do. She does what the beast does. When he tries to communicate with me, when my beast tries to communicate with me and he doesn't get heard, he screams, "Let me out of here! Let me out of here!" When I still don't listen to him, he goes crazy. He creates a tantrum. And he starts to shake the whole building. The whole fiber of my being shakes because I feel him locked up in there, literally shaking the resonance of my soul and saying, "I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to do it." And when I still don't let him out, he destroys the walls around me and just runs around. So the way to let him out and ride him is get him before he gets angry. Say, "Beast, what is it tell me what it is you want to say to me." It's the resolution strategy for every relationship we have, be it business, government, our own relationship to ourselves. If we would listen to what's being said, no one would ever have to scream. The beast wouldn't have to scream.
So you acknowledge and listen before it escalates.
Yeah. And then what would happen? Like, tell me, is there a case in your life where you have heard somebody before it escalated and it de-escalated?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's funny that I had that disconnect actually with the beast there. It's like I hadn't thought of that in my own self as much as I would see it in listening to somebody else. Just in that aspect of myself, I've seen it in other aspects of myself, but for some reason I hadn't seen it around that aspect. I think that's why I felt it's been a gradual process for me, because I've seen the answer in one place, but it doesn't necessarily I'll see it in another place within myself. And that's kind of why it's taken me a while to like just kind of like go with it. And to be honest, I feel like it's a gradual process over time, that there'll be certain aspects of myself that I'm blinded to, but there'll be certain stages where I'm ready to start acknowledging that side.
So let me disrupt you for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What if that's not true? I mean, it makes so much sense. Let me acknowledge you and validate you for what you're saying. It makes so much sense. Things will happen over time. I'll get to it when I get to it. Not that I'll be shown the way to get out of it. You know, all these things take a little bit of time. I can't expect to go from where I am to where I want to be just like that. All of the beautiful meanderings of our mind, all of the beautiful conclusions of the stories we created. But what if we created another story? Today in America, or not even America, in the Jewish tradition, today is Hanukkah. Hanukkah is, they had enough oil to light the candles in the temple to last 8 days. But they were at war, and everything around them was closed off. The oil that was supposed to go out on the 8th day continued to burn through a miracle until they could manufacture more oil and bring it to the temple to keep the light, the eternal light going. What if there are miracles all around us that want to happen, but our stories create walls around ourselves that don't allow something supernatural to happen? They only allow the rational to continue to happen. What would happen if the silos of the way we believe could melt for a moment to allow things that we didn't even know were possible to change us? What would happen in this moment if you said, "You know something? I don't have to wait anymore. I can do that right now. Because I'm connected to something bigger than me. I'm connected to Source. And Source in this moment, I feel that's what it wants from me." So I'm going to let go of all the walls that I've protected myself with, of the stories that I have. And I'm just going to allow this to come in. Am I making sense, or am I just pontificating?
No, it is making sense. Yeah, it is the stories that stand in our way. It's just, it's whether, yeah, but it's opening to the possibility that it can change, or that like,
So if you accept that it's the stories that make our reality,
yeah,
okay? The beautiful thing about that change formula is you change one part of the equation, everything in the formula changes. If you change the thought, the words you say will be different. If you change the words, the story you say will be different. If you change the story, the life you live will be different. And so when we have the courage, here's where courage comes in. Here's where the beast is our friend.
Mm-hmm.
When we have the courage to ride the beast, to break us out of the status quo of our indifference, to break us out of the disconnecting, the walls that disconnect us. When he's pounding on those walls, that's us pounding on our walls, saying, I want to get out of this. This isn't me. When we have the courage to let the beast disrupt the status quo of our mind, I'm not saying it's always going to work out. We may pay a price sometimes, but it might work out sometimes too. Have courage. Can I go to step 3 of the 4 practices?
Yeah, far away.
Okay. So step 1 was be kind to yourself. When we're kind to ourselves, we take down this wall.
Mm-hmm.
It allows us to be vulnerable. We suddenly become open to things because we don't have walls protecting us. Practice 3 of the 4 practices of connection is to do what you came to do, to live purposefully. Suddenly now when our walls are down and all of this is coming into us, we're like receiving stations. We have everything, we feel everything, we touch everything, we experience everything, we know everything. We feel all this energy coming into us. We have to then start to live purposefully. We have to start to do what I call the destination practice. We have to say, when we get into a car now, we have a GPS system. We don't have to worry about how to get there. We put into our car the directions, or we put into our phone the GPS. GPS guides us effortlessly. Turn left in 2 blocks, go for 5 miles, right? And we end up at the destination we choose. And sometimes it takes us in a peculiar route,
Mm-hmm.
but most of the time it's getting pretty good. We get there, right? What would happen if we did the same thing in our human operating system? If we put in our GPS system where our destination is? And I'm going to give you a very quick story. Because I've had so much pain, most of my life I've chosen the destination of eating food that would comfort me. Well, food that comforts me is not necessarily food that makes me healthy. It's lots of carbs, lots of sugar, lots of processed foods, because it just fills you up and it made me feel comfortable. About 3 or 4 months ago, I had this thought: what if I changed my GPS system to foods that were healthy for me, foods that were good for me, foods that may not comfort me in the moment, but would give me comfort in my life, that would be really good for me? Maybe the inflammation in my body would go away. Maybe the pain that I felt would go away. Maybe my size would become less. And for the first 2 months, I lost a half a pound a day. So I lost 30 pounds in 60 days, eating healthy, eating good. I was satiated. I was eating fine. I just wasn't eating junk. I stopped meat. I stopped fish. I stopped dairy. I stopped gluten. I stopped processed foods. I stopped sugar. I was going to stop coffee, but my doctor said, no, do coffee. It's good for you. It's been proven to actually be good for the heart. Then I hit a plateau. Then my mind said, okay, this isn't working anymore. And it started to say, I want to be comforted because I'm not getting the success that I wanted. So I went back to starting bringing comfort in. Pain started to come back into my body. Inflammation started to happen again. And all of a sudden I said, hold it. What is this? Like, why can't I be committed to things that are good for me? Where is that self-sabotage in me that wants to connect me to hurting myself? I put on my Be Kind to You bracelet that I have, that I made. And I started seeing, how are the choices that I'm making being kind to myself? Once my destination changed, the whole route that took me there changed. I now was purposeful about knowing this is where I want to go. And I only took routes that got me to my destination. Routes that passed the pizza place or the cookie shop or the bakery or the bar, I stopped going to because they were not en route to where I was headed. So the third practice in the practice of connection is do what you came to do. Start to pull together those pieces that will get you to your destination. Does this resonate, or what do you feel?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. And then when you come back to the thought changing the story, it's like the GPS. You put it's the same analogy. Just put the thought in there, creates a story. You get the route that way. That does make sense. And it's I guess the one question I would have there is and what I see people struggle with is, the destination, they revert back to the comfort before they give it fully a chance, or they don't just stick to the route even though they know it's the right route. They succumb to just like going back into bad habits again.
Totally.
What would you say to that for people who face that on a day-to-day basis?
Love it. So let's go back to the brilliance of my 29-year-old developmentally delayed daughter, and the story that she told me, that when she speaks and I don't listen to her, she screams. Now, it wasn't that she was speaking too softly that I didn't understand her. I just couldn't understand the words she said. So screaming about it didn't help. When she screamed and I didn't understand her, she threw a tantrum. When I tantrum didn't understand her, she tried to destroy something. So how could that same methodology of conflict resolution come into my process of, this is what I want to do, this is my destination, I want to eat healthy, and suddenly my body starts to act out and starts to say, oh, no, you don't. When I don't listen to it, it screams. When the scream happens and I don't listen to it, it becomes disruptive. When the disruption happens and I don't listen to it, I try and destroy it. So everything in this world comes back to me, to this simple process of connecting through listening. We've stopped listening. We don't listen to what our body's saying. We don't listen to what each other's saying. If you look at the American political situation, people don't listen to each other. They talk over each other. We're not trying to resolve anything. We're just trying to be right. We're trying to be the one that has the right idea. We don't care about really what's the truth of the matter. We care that we're right. And that is a reflection of just our inner reality. For me, at least. Because we as a society now are not vulnerable enough to say, maybe I don't understand this. Help me. If I were to listen to my body might be saying, hey, you know what, Danny? You need a little more protein. That doesn't mean you have to eat meat if you don't want to eat meat, but find protein. But if I don't listen to it, it's going to try and make me do something that I don't want to do.
That makes sense, yeah. So for example, somebody's in that situation where they want to eat healthy, they want to lose some weight, is listening to their body and checking in with themselves will help them to keep on the path.
Connection. Remember how I started it? What's more essential in our lives than connection? When we build a connection to our thoughts, to our body, to the world that we live in, to each other, we actually start to dialogue. We don't pontificate, we dialogue. I'm a big pontificator. You can see that, right?
I get you. So it's the pontification to our own bodies that's causing the issue there, and not listening to our bodies. Yeah. Okay.
We're, for me at least, all the time that I get in trouble is when I get scared to be vulnerable. When I get scared to say my body might be trying to tell me something. Like when I gained 50 extra pounds, my body was trying to tell me something. But no, it's not saying anything. I mean, that's not that smart. I'm not going to listen. What does it have to tell me? I know what I want to do. But when we cooperate with the world and connect to the world, when we connect to ourselves, to source, to our purpose, the things that will get us to where we want to go, and then to each other, that's when our life changes. We fall in love. It's a connection. We build a career. It's a connection. We take care of ourselves. It's a connection. We meet our beast. It's a connection. Everything comes down to this simple connection. And what our connection is.
So how about step 4? What's the last step?
So fabulous. The fourth practice in the 4 practices is then you build your mosaic. Once we're open, once we're kind to ourselves and we take down our walls, once we're vulnerable and we allow the world to come into us and we come into the world and we allow connection to happen, once we understand the pieces that we need to get to the destination that we want to go to, then we put those pieces together and we build the mosaic. We build our pathway that bridges the gap from where we are to where we want to go. And that gap, some of those pieces we were talking about before, some of those pieces might just connect corner to corner. There might be no connection this piece has over here with this piece except for one small thing. But that one small connection suddenly opens me up to all of this world over here. And so it isn't in the size of the connection. It's in the vulnerability, opening ourselves up to what is the connection that's happening right now in this situation. When you meet somebody, what is trying to happen here? When you have a dialogue or you have thoughts in your head, what's trying to happen here? When you're doing your business, what's trying to happen here? But most of us want to stay in our silos, protected by our walls of status quo. It takes a heck of a lot of courage to say, I want to change. That's hard. And yet change is where innovation happens. Change is where we allow something bigger than ourselves to actually come in and take everything that's holding us back away. Can you imagine if we were to believe for 1 minute, Dennis, that everything we want is just one connection away? And there was something right in front of us that was just holding that connection out to us. And we could have it in this moment. How would that disrupt the stories we all tell ourselves? It can't happen that quickly. No, it can't. That's too far. It's going to take time. I'm not good enough to have that happen now. It's not worthy. I'm not, whatever the heck the story is that we tell ourselves. We tell ourselves thousands of stories. But here's the reality the mosaics show me. One piece away from where I am is a whole new world. One connection takes me out of poverty into prosperity. One connection takes me out of loneliness into being with my soulmate. One connection takes me away from an unhealthy life to a healthy life. It's just that simple. And we're all connected to all of it. We just believe we're separate.
That's certainly makes things a lot more simple.
The beauty of this whole thing is that it's so simple,
Yeah.
but it takes a lot of courage. You know it because the character that you related to the most in the book was the beast.
Mm.
And how do you let that mofo free? I mean, like, he could destroy everything.
Yeah.
Right? He's anger, he's passion, he's lust, he's greed, he's the dark side of us all. But he's also the energy that makes our life come alive. Because when we ride him, we're invincible. When we tuck him away, we're always scared. We're always scared that, gosh, if you come inside my wall, you're going to see him and you're going to think I'm not a good person. How about if I just come out and say, hey, do you want to ride my horse? You want to ride my beast? Come on. He and I are connected. We're not going to hurt you. And sometimes it means letting him have what he wants. But most of the time, it's the connection makes us both real.
Yeah.
There's no need to disrupt or destroy or tantrum or kill something if we're being hurt in the beginning. That's the beauty of my daughters, of this conflict strategy that that a developmentally delayed kid taught me, my kid. So simple.
Yeah, no, that actually the other thing that stood out in the book too was that what you have is right in front of your eyes. And it's the first time that I ever kind of realized that it's the way I look at the world is enough. Before I started to see a bit more of that, I had this tendency to try and explain how I see the world to somebody else rather than just saying how I see the world, listening to somebody else, how they see the world, and then seeing how you create something from that. It's kind of what stood out to me. Actually, one thing I wanted to explore just before we finish is what is the process like of actually creating a fable? How did you begin? How did you do that?
It was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to take 2 or 3 months. I had written a fable for a hotel and branded the concept, branded their story in a fable. And they asked me to tell their story. It was the Ondas in Maui, in Hawaii. And they said, we want you to tell our story. And I branded them through that story. And it took me 2 months to do it. So when I sat down to write this, I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. If the fable works, and I think it does, the beauty is it doesn't teach anybody. It just tells a story. And in the story, what you see is what you see, and what someone else sees is what they see. But we all see what we're meant to see. And my dream is that through this story, we'll come to that place where, have you ever seen those drawings where, I think they use them in psychology, they're line drawings where one way it looks like an old woman and the other way it looks like a young socialite.
Gestalt, no, it's not Gestalt principles, but no, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
They're like optical illusions. You know, you see them from one perception, it looks like but Gestalt would make sense, right? The amazing thing about that is we can only see one thing at a time. And what we see, like if I see the old woman, as long as I see the old woman, it blocks me from seeing the socialite. So what's interesting to me in this perception of the mosaic is, what if the world looks like that? What if the world I see is only part of what's being shown to me? What if what's in front of me is both the old woman and the socialite, the young socialite? And what if what I see is blocking me from seeing something else? What would I see if I could see it all? And when people have different perspectives, why wouldn't I want to engage with those people who see the world differently than I do? That's why a lot of people now come to me and ask me to work with them. Because They're tired of seeing the world they see. They're tired of the silo of like-mindedness that they're in. And they want someone to come and help them to see that other thing that's just right there that they can't see. And that disruption of unlike mind, of seeing something new, creates innovation. It changes the course of a business. It changes the course of a relationship. It changes the course of self-care, which we've already talked about. So the people that I'm reaching out to are not the people who don't want to change. Because there are a lot of people who say, this is the way I see the world. I'm happy in the way I see the world. We had a conversation with some people over the holidays, and they were on one side of the political equation. And we had conversations, and I was thinking, oh, this is a great chance to see what the Mosaic is like. I can see if I can show them and sort of share with them a different perspective, see if they're open. There was no openness. They didn't care. They didn't want to see it anywhere different. It's a waste of time to show somebody something they don't want to see. I'm not looking for those people to work with. I'm looking for the people that say, the way I see things is limiting me now. I'm connected in so many ways, but these disconnections are causing me pain. I want to learn how to see the world from another perspective as well. Not totally give up my perspective, but see my world from a different perspective. I want to learn to tame my beast. I want to learn to let him out. I want to learn to listen to the things that are happening around me rather than fight them. And those people, I can promise you, I can guarantee you, will experience a life beyond what they've ever experienced. They'll feel an openness that they've never had. They'll feel a completeness in their own self that they've been scared to look at. Whatever we hide, we fear. Whatever we reveal, reveals itself to all. And why not live free? I'm so tired of being scared. And so my work is for the people who are ready not to be scared anymore. I'll hold your hand. I'll pick you up when you fall, just like you will for me. But if you're happy being scared, I salute you. Go for it. Stay there as long as you can, because it's way safer. You're protected by your walls. But if you want to live a happy life, free, and not hide from the things that you can have because you're scared that you can't have them, I say, come and let's have a conversation.
So how would those people find you to have a conversation?
Fabulous. Oh, you're a good seguer. You know that? You may. They can go to my website, themosaiconline.com.
Yeah. And
they can find all my social media there. They can find my email. My email is danny@themosaiconline.com. Here's my final reach. We were never meant to do this alone. We were meant to have extraordinaries come together to create extraordinary life. We're all so smart, myself included, that we know exactly how to walk around the things that we have to go through so that we never go through them. And we can brilliantly use our mind to talk ourselves into thinking how far we've come. But the beast is still locked up in the closet. Until we have the ability to find somebody, and I'm not saying it's me, but find somebody who you trust, who you know will have your goodness at heart, who you know will help you, not ever hurt you, that you can be vulnerable with, and allow them to come into you and help you remove the trash. Like in my book, there's the trash man. Mm. Not most people's idol of what they want their kids to be like, but this trash man, I think every parent would want. If I could tell you, Dennis, right now, I'm going to come inside you And you and I are going to remove all the things inside you that are keeping you from being the way you want. And we're going to take those and we're going to put them in my trash truck. And we're going to drive them away. Who wouldn't want that? Find someone who can do that for you. Find someone you trust. That if you're putting it in the truck and you go, no, I'm not ready, we'll take it out of the truck and give it back to you, right?
Yeah.
Or we'll sit with you and say, what's going on? Find someone who will listen to you so you don't need to scream or destroy or disrupt. That will actually care enough about you to help you become free. If I could be that person for you, it would be my greatest honor. That's the mosaic. If I'm not that person for you, it's my greatest honor. Find the person that is that person for you. It's time. In the most connected time we've ever been in, we are more disconnected than we've ever been. We're more scared. We're more protected. A few of us will change the entire world. It's the way it's always been. A small group of people coming together with purpose have changed the world over and over and over again. I'm looking for those people who want to be a part of that. And let's change the world.
Sounds good, Daniel. It's a very hopeful message to end on, I think.
Thank you.
So thanks for the conversation today, Daniel, and telling us more about the mosaic and your process and what you've learned. And I've definitely learned stuff myself. There's food for thought for myself today from talking to you. So thanks for sharing.
And people can get the book through Amazon. All over the world, Amazon will have it, or they can order it directly from my website and we'll send it to them and figure out how to do that. So it's a starting point. It hints at a lot of things. But in a story that is written to tell people that there's more to what you see than what you see, it's only befitting that the story would only have more in it than people could see. So as you read it, look at the hints, look at the doors they open, look at the connections they open. I think it's an amazing, amazing book for an amazing time. Thank you for the honor of sitting with you, for the integrity of who you are, for the beauty of what you offer. And if everybody walks away with a happy mindset, we would have done our work today.
Great. Thanks, Daniel. So hope you enjoyed listening. Until next time, have fun and enjoy the process.